Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team, Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 247 with Fight on State. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Peter Terpstra, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector Salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group. Committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By EasyToUse.com. Your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime.
Hey, welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime. I'm Peter Terpstra. As always, we're joined by the Nitwits, Mark Brennan, Neil Rudell, and we got former Penn State football captain Mike Irwin. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're going to get right into this thing. We had a good old-fashioned butt kicking, man. Penn State put it on Pittsburgh, 51-6. But for me, it really didn't feel like it was that close, kind of until things snowballed at the end. Neil, we're going to start with this. What do you, the first thing that pops into your mind when you evaluate this game?
I can't recall a team with the kind of tradition that Pitt has, and this, what you expect from this series, and the way they started out, I thought it was going to be a 1 or 2 touchdown game. Most of us predicted a pretty competitive game. We saw a team just completely unravel and fall apart, starting with their head coach and their special teams and all the penalties. It just, I think Penn State made some improvement, and I feel better about them today than we did a week ago. Yeah. But Pitt, wow, I tell you, if you're a Pitt fan, you really got to be scratching your head after that.
Well, you had that only touchdown of Pitt, I believe, first or second drive. So it was so early. And then from then on, I mean, they had opportunities, but the Penn State defense made big plays when they needed to.
Yeah, when you talk about an old-fashioned butt kicking, does it call to mind another one? Maybe that Massimo brought up last week. I mean, in 1981, Penn State was trailing 14-0 and had this improbable turnaround and went on to win 48-14. This wasn't exactly the same because Penn State never trailed.
Pitt had a little better quarterback.
Well, yeah, a little better team. They were number one, but Penn State was being outplayed in that game on Saturday night. And for them to turn things around the way they did it, I was really, really impressed. We've been critical of the defense of what happened at the end of the App State game and what happened early in the Pitt game, but the adjustments they made, I think you have to give everybody on that defensive staff and the defensive players credit because they were getting mauled in the ground game, and to turn it around the way they did, I was impressed.
Mm-hmm. And you had a few big moments. Like a 4th down stop, that was huge. Interception in the end zone. Coach James Franklin after the game, and I agree with him, didn't play the best defense, but they made the clutch plays. Mike, what did you see?
Well, I thought it was great. I mean, on national TV, I think Penn State beating our rival Pitt, our old rival Pitt. And I think Narduzzi, in the beginning, I mean, I think he knew he had to score a lot of points to win this game. Yeah. And when he didn't go for the field goal to go ahead, I thought that was a little bit of a shocker to me, because why wouldn't you put your team ahead? And they made so many mistakes on special teams. And you got to look at Penn State, how detailed James Franklin is with his team on these special teams. I mean, you really appreciate Franklin when you look at Narduzzi, and their special teams were terrible, absolutely terrible. And I think they lost it by not being so detailed. And I think Pitt has a good team. I mean, even though we killed them 51-6, I think they really do have. I mean, they had 9 starters back on defense, and they ended up last year beating number 2 Miami at the end of the year, and the year before that they beat Clemson. So I think Pitt might rally back, but I mean, I don't know. The rivalry is probably over by now.
We'll see what they do this week with Georgia Tech. I do think they're better than they played. I thought Kevin Givens' return to Penn State really made a big difference. Whatever behavior modification was that he underwent, I think he must have got the message and really learned a lesson there. And he played his best game.
Well, what about
7 tackles, 2 for loss?
Yeah, obviously Givens was huge, but what about this KJ Hamler? I mean, he really, without the things that he did in that first half, I mean, who knows where that game may go. And the other thing is, listen, I hate to be critical of current players, but their veterans are dropping balls left and right.
Yeah.
This kid has stepped up and become a go-to guy very early in his career. You could almost see he already has a comfort level with Trace McSorley. You also have to give Trace a ton of credit. And I thought, maybe unsung heroes is the wrong word, but Blake Gillikin, the job he did in the second half, teaming him with what Givens and the crew did, pinning them back and just letting them cut loose was tremendous.
Well, especially comparing him to Pitt's operation.
Yeah.
I mean, Gillikin clearly was one of the MVPs of the game.
When it comes down to a weather game like that, when you expect teams to lean on the run game, and then it looked like Pitt kind of had that edge in the run game early on. Miles Sanders had a big run that got called back, so you had a crucial mistake there. But special teams was huge. I mean, not just the punt game, but all around.
Well, I think Gillikin is probably the best punter in the country. I mean, the guy's done a fabulous job for Penn State, and he's going to be up for the Ray Guy Award.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably going to be considered, but he helped them out so much. They went for the field goal early and didn't make the field goal. Then they punted when they were down around the 30-yard line, which I thought was, a little bit. But Gillikin pinned them right down there. And I mean, guy, I don't know what he's averaging, probably mid-40s as far as his punts, and he's really good. I think we have a lot to look forward to.
Well, I think that, building off the last game where they didn't finish strong defensively, you could see they were playing a lot of guys defensively very early, and they went to Parsons. They'd made some decisions, I'm sure, during the week that they were going to get some of these playmakers involved earlier, and I think it paid off.
Yeah, Parsons, Wade, Mustafa, Lucada, you saw a lot of those guys see more snaps than
Brooks.
Brooks got in there than the previous week. But the other thing to dial back a little bit here, the one thing about Pitt, Peter, is that they were running the ball tremendously.
Yeah.
But they had 0 passing yards in the first quarter. And I think it just goes to show you that as good as you may be, it is hard to compete with the upper level Power 5 teams if you are that one-dimensional, because all Penn State, well, not all, I mean, I give them credit for making the move, but when they were able to shut down their run game, then all of a sudden Pitt was done. And I think, again, that speaks well to Penn State's coaching.
Yeah.
The other thing about the coaching, I think the number of people that they're playing, I mean, they're like, freshmen and redshirt freshmen. I mean, I think last couple games they've gotten like 17 people in there. And I think we have a lot to look forward to. And it helps the morale of the team if everybody's playing and they're all in there together. And they have so many athletes down there. I mean, I don't know. I look at it, they probably have better athletes than they ever had down there, if you look at it. And there's some other good runners.
Since 66 at least.
Well, that's an exceptional team. Yeah. They were a little better at 66, but no,
That 66
strong
team,
words. That's great.
that 66 team fumbled 40 times.
How many did Mike have?
I don't know how many Mike had. We're trying to get that. But where I was going is this team doesn't beat itself. They generally don't fumble, though they did yesterday, but penalties, the mistakes that you saw from Pitt, Penn State has been very good at not beating itself.
All right, so we saw that jump from week 1 to week 2. Coming up next, what we saw in week 1 really wasn't as great as what we saw in week 2. Did we overreact, and how Penn State turned it around? Next.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back to Nittany Nation Overtime. Still here with the Nitwits. All right, so in week 1, overtime win. It was close. It had everyone sweating, right? And then week 2, you get a rain-soaked game and a 45-point win over Pitt. Neil, you were pretty.
Yeah, I wasn't sure they were going to go 10-2.
Right. So where do you stand now?
It's not that we overreacted. Did he overreact?
Well, I think that's the jury's still out there. You put words in my mouth and said I said 6-6.
I never did.
Never said that. But I am encouraged, and I will give them credit in the sense that they correct a lot of their mistakes and adjust to different things on the fly, like at halftime with the run. I mean, that was a dominating performance. Pitt with the fullback was running the ball right down Penn State's throat. I mean, that number 30 is a good back. So I think Penn State really has made game-into-game adjustments and game-to-game and season-to-season adjustments.
The one thing I said last week is that App State game could turn out to be a silver lining because a lot of things were tested, but they somehow won. They should have lost that game. I mean, in my view, they shouldn't have lost it going into it, but the way it played out, I thought App State outplayed them. And then to see what App State did this past week, that Zach Thomas was 14 of 14, albeit against a much lesser opponent. That kid's a quality quarterback.
They're probably going to be 11-1.
Yeah, so that's a very good team, but I think that ended up being, and I think it proved out to be that so far. They had a lot of things, potential issues, especially with younger players tested, and they gave them a lot to evaluate last Sunday that they could really sink their teeth in and say, hey guys, this is what you got to get better at. And I think by and large they did. Mike, don't you?
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I watched that game and I thought App State really played well. They had a lot of talent on that team, and I think a lot of people underestimated that team. And I think you're probably right. They will go 11-1 or something like that. I thought, I mean, quarterback was good. The running backs were good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a very disciplined team and played really well. I mean, they're legit. I mean, I don't think, and they probably proved that this week by.
Yeah, be interesting to see if they played Pitt this week.
I'm 11-1. I wasn't that nervous.
Okay.
Well, but the way Pittsburgh played, and we hit on it before, is they kind of let things get to them.
Yeah.
Was the stage too big?
You don't see a coach getting an unsportsmanlike penalty after the sideline has been warned. They just really, I think the stage was too big. He probably made more out of this game than they were able to handle. And, I think that has to be the most disappointing to the Pitt people.
As maddening as it is for fans in the media to hear James Franklin say, this game's the Super Bowl, this game's the Super Bowl, this game's the Super Bowl. That's why they win the games they're supposed to win. And that's why Pitt last year loses to Syracuse and loses to North Carolina and then beats number 2 Miami. They're up and down, and you can't afford to do that. And I think what happened was they played this game up, and then once it started getting away from them, you could see complete panic. And I think that's what those special teams there were not just young players, but panic setting in.
Well, I think Pitt's in a battle for these players from Western Pennsylvania. I mean, I heard Mark last week said he maybe worried about them from Altoona to Pittsburgh, but that's their recruiting base, and we are taking a lot of kids out of Pittsburgh.
Oh, they always have.
Yeah.
And I think this game today, yesterday, is a mark that it's going to continue. I mean, I think Pitt's on the way down, and I think Penn State's on the way up. I mean,
you've seen that, and you've seen that in the recruiting classes, and you've seen kind of a steady climb, and now we walk into this situation this year. We have a lot of question marks, and you're not sure how good the team's going to be, and we don't know how good in the grand scheme of things Penn State is going to be. Obviously, we're going to get answers to those questions pretty soon when you start the Big Ten schedule and you get Ohio State coming into town. But all positive.
You
marks.
have seen. You hit on a point. They haven't been upset that often, and the sign of a really good program is beating the teams. And we've seen many upsets over the years where a lot of marbles were put on certain big games, and particularly even rolling back, as you would say, Mike, before they got in the Big Ten. And maybe they're in a real big game, a tight game with Maryland or Temple or Rutgers.
Well, Massimo made that point last week. I mean, I thought that was a tremendous point, that back in '86, they were getting by the skin of their teeth against some vastly overmatched opponents, and then when they got into close games against really good opponents, they knew what to do. When they got into the Fiesta Bowl against Miami, they were ready to execute where Miami was in panic mode. So I think long term, the beginning of the season has set up well. Long way to go. A lot of great opponents, as we've seen, left on this schedule. It's going to be fun. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a lot of fun watching this team go throughout the season.
All right, coming up next on Nittany Nation Overtime, it was not perfect, but it was a blowout. How Penn State turned some of those first half question marks into a second half shutdown. Next.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Reed and Solaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back to Nittany Nation Overtime. We're here with the Nitwits. Big win for Penn State.
One of the originals, too.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's good to be back.
Yeah, we appreciate you
I'm
coming
only
on
a
the show.
part-time nitwit now. These guys are full-time.
That was by request.
I'm only part nitwit.
You're still a nitwit when you're watching at home.
I watch it, and I watch you guys every week. I wouldn't miss it.
We appreciate
So
it.
exciting to watch the nitwits.
Toward the end of that game, things, as you saw, the fans kind of started to leave. It was raining. Pitt was just getting stomped. 51-6 win for Penn State. But you did see some points of concern, especially when you had a few defensive breakdowns and the run game was working early on. But what did you see?
Well, you made a point. You made a
Every
good
once
point.
in a while.
Yeah. Early on.
Wait a minute. Peter made a point?
No, Brennan.
That's an even bigger surprise.
Brenner's made a lot of good points.
Yeah.
No, and James has talked about creating the most competitive environment around, and you can see the competition that is taking place with some of these upper and classmen and freshmen. Some of the upperclassmen are responding well to it. Yeah. Some of them maybe are struggling. The receiver position, I think, is off to just a shaky start, has some room for growth. Hamler's been great. Mm-hmm. Brandon Polk has done a nice job, although he had a clip. Juwan Johnson, I don't think he's off to his best start. I think he's going to get better as the season goes on.
You look at him, and he's just got this big receiver body. He's got all the tools.
He's a 4'4" and change 40
right.
guy, yeah.
But he hasn't been the go-to receiver.
There's a difference between being the guy who is the guy that they're looking to, the Godwin, the Hamilton, and then being the complimentary guy, which he's been.
I thought that he was going to be that guy.
So did I, yeah, so did I. But I'll tell you what, here's the thing. And again, I don't want to be really critical because these are young guys, and they're all
These
fighting
days are coming.
and working hard. But Neil, if these guys and everybody, if these guys don't get it done, they have some true freshman receivers. Shorter actually dressed and made the trip. We haven't seen him doing a whole heck of a lot at practice. But Dotson and the Daniel George kid, they have 3 freshman receivers who all have the potential to be big time. And if these guys, the upperclassmen, don't step up, don't be surprised if you see them give these kids a look just to get an opportunity. But they still have another game or two, I think, to make sure that you give the upperclassmen the benefit of the doubt in some new roles.
Well, you've already seen it with Tompkins, and he had 3 drops yesterday.
Right. And you're in a situation where I think those older guys could really, yes, Hamler's been the go-to guy, but you're going to see a lot more defensive efforts to shut him down, especially when we get into Big Ten play, and then that could open up some lanes for some of those older guys out of wide receiver, and not just wide receiver, but you want to see all of those upperclassmen.
When they start playing the better competition, the Ohio States and the Michigan States and the Michigans, they're going to need these guys to catch the ball. McSorley, I think they had 4 or 5 drops. Tompkins dropped 2, I think.
3.
Johnson dropped 1, and Hamler dropped one. I think there were like at least 4
Yeah,
drops.
it was slippery. But
Yeah, rainy.
But I don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
you could afford to. Yeah, maybe it is because of the wet weather
Yeah.
and everything. It might have caused some of it. But when they get in those big games, they better catch the ball.
And I think the same goes at linebacker. While you're seeing some transitioning to younger players and some of the older guys. Cam Brown, I thought, played better yesterday. He got the edge pretty well. I thought it was one of his better games.
Still some tackling issues early in that game. I think they shored that up later in the game. To me, it's only a matter of time until Micah Parsons is out there. Not every down. Koa Farmer's still going to play. Even though Micah Parsons makes mistakes, the stuff he's doing out there, he just has a nose
It's
for
like
the
he's
football.
just in on every big
So,
play.
I
Even
mean,
on special
somehow
teams.
he's already recovered that kind of quasi onside kick.
Yeah.
He blocked a punt.
punt, yeah.
I mean, he just seems to be in the middle of everything. And even when he runs himself out of plays, he somehow runs himself back in. I just think he's that talented that he is going to be a guy who's an impact player. You're going to see more and more of him as the season goes along.
I think the only area I think they're struggling a little bit defensive line right now. I mean, Pitt rushed for 250 yards or something like that the first half. Now they shut them down the second half, so they definitely made adjustments at halftime. And I was actually waiting for that because I knew it was a close game, and I'm thinking, so they're going to go into halftime and come out and make some adjustments. So they did. I mean, to their credit, the coaching staff did a great job. I mean, I don't think Pitt's. Going back, Narduzzi and their special teams, I thought, absolutely terrible. But
Penn State's ends, I thought Miller and Tony both played well.
I thought Etor did in the
Yeah.
second half, too. And I think Etor Gross-Matos is going to be a guy to watch. He's still working his way in. But if you stand next to this kid, he is every bit of 6'6" and 255, 260 pounds. He just has to get, and Franklin said it multiple times, he just has to get in there and play a little bit more. And I think he has a chance to be a dominant force.
All
do you
right.
think like Micah Parsons are just holding back a little bit now because
Yeah.
waiting for the big games to come up?
No, not that at all. And I know we're running a little bit late here, but remember what they did with LeVar when he came in? And I'm not saying this kid is LeVar, but I'm saying he could be really, really good. Let it come to him slowly. You don't have to force everything on him. You could and you have a veteran there who's played a lot of football. So I don't think they're saying no, hold out for Ohio State. I think they want him to kind of ease his way in. But you're just going to see each game a couple more snaps, a couple more snaps, a couple more snaps.
All right, so we got the next game coming up, Kent State. We're going to kind of break down who they are, and we're going to find that out next.
The NitWits are brought to you by Death Rows, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector Salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By REMAX Results Realty Group. Committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By EasyToUse.com. Your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back. Let's get right to it. Kent State's coming here, noon kick on Fox Sports 1. Our predictions, I think it's going to be a big-time win for Penn State, 48-14, following in Massimo Manca's footsteps. Mike?
I'll go with Penn State 47-7.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mike. I'll say 53-13.
Okay, I'll go 51-7 Penn State. I think they're going to come off of this game with a lot of momentum and keep it rolling.
All right, so this is the week, we hope, where we get the fast start and things kind of go from there. This was Nittany Nation Overtime. Folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Salaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Salaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector Salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group. Committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By EasyToUse.com. Your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.